Good afternoon, everyone. I'm working with WWF India, as Jason has suggested. Now, I'll go to the presentation. I have slightly modified the title of the presentation, the one which was there in the program, because I thought just to put into the context that where we are about environmental flows in India. So just a couple of slides, which I'll quickly run through. It actually dated back to 1992 when Central Water Commission came out with the term called minimum flows, and that was they thought that it should be mandatory for the coming up hydropower projects or for infrastructure projects to sustain the rivers. But over the period of time, it is also realized that that is not enough, and we need to look at from a broader perspective, from a holistic perspective, and something similar was recognized by National Commission on Integrated Water Resources Development Plan in 1999. But again, they were not very confident about the kind of recommendations or the figures as environmental flows for the rivers. So this debate keep on growing, and it's in 2005 and 2006, which one can consider as a tipping point when we have started thinking seriously about environmental flows. And a workshop was organized by Ministry of Water Resources, Ministry of Environment and Forest, WWF India, National Institute of Ecology, and a couple other organizations, and they concluded in their resolution about e-flows that environmental flow requirements differ considerably in different rivers and different reaches and have to be assessed and prescribed separately. The assessment of environmental flow requirements should consider comprehensive method rather than the single approach hydrology-based methods. Later on, International Water Management Institute has done some e-flows assessment studies in southern Indian rivers, including Godavari, and developed global environmental flow calculator, but that was again based on global data sets of water flows. The National Environment Policy in 2006 talked about freshwater resources and also calls for integrated water resources management and environmental flows. In year 2006, the Himachal Pradesh government, which is in the north of India, has mandated 15% of lean season flow as a precondition for upcoming hydropower projects, and again arbitrary figure, but one step ahead from 10%, so one can say, okay, some improvement. Later on, Water Quality Assessment Authority was set up by Government of India. They have used modified Tennant method to assess flow requirements for Indian rivers, but again, with the figures they have come out with, they said that we are not confident about the recommended figures, so it's up for discussion. Later on in 2008, WWF India, under the HSBC Climate Partnership Program, has initiated a study on environmental flows assessment. That is still continuing, and that's what I'm going to explain. And in 2010, Ganga River Basin Management Plan, this assignment was given to a consortium of IITs. IIT stands for Indian Institute of Technology, and they are the premier technical institutions in India. They are spread across India. And they are developing this plan, and under that plan, environmental flows is a component in that plan, and we are helping IITs to do that. Our Living Ganga program is actually HSBC WWF India program, and with a vision to sustainably manage energy and water resources within Ganga River Basin in face of climate change. Though this river is about 2,525 kilometers long, and so our focus was the initial stretch from 0 to 800 kilometers, which is from Gangotri to Kanpur. And all the interventions we had, not only in regard to environmental flows, but in relation to other components, our focus was this 800 kilometer stretch. As I said, this river is 2,525 kilometers long. The basin falls in 11 states, which is northern, central, and central eastern India. 43% of India's population resides in this basin, which is about 448 million people. And population density is about 520% per square kilometer, whereas the national average stands at 312% per square kilometer. So you can see the extent of population density within that basin. More than 60% of water from the main river stem is allocated to irrigation. It faces significant industrial pollution, but at the same time it is very pertinent in terms of cultural and spiritual aspirations. So this is the process just in a snapshot, and I'll detail about it a little more. When we started this in 2008, there was not enough capacity not only within WWF, within the people with whom we were thinking to work together. So we initially had capacity building meetings, events, workshops. So in 2008, and then by December 2008, we held objective setting workshop in which we thought, okay, which methodology we should be adopting for environmental flows assessment. And in February 2008, we have come out, we have deliberated about the methodology and narrowed down to one specific methodology which we should go about. It was felt that there is a need to get flow data, which is a sort of prerequisite for coming out with any assessment of environmental flows. So we tried to get the buy-in from the central and the state government. So we had a collaborative event with State Water Resources Agency, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh is one of the biggest riparian state of that river. That was in July 2009, and later on we had series of progress meetings and workshops with all the partners with whom we have worked. And finally, in May 2010, we have come up with environmental flows setting, or we can say the recommendations that exact what we want as environmental flow at that particular site or at that particular zone. Parallelly, we had the process of appointment of specialists, information review, field work, which actually ran for more than a year. And finally, the specialist reports, which we call as starter documents, in which they have compiled all the information which was to be used for flow recommendations. We narrowed down to building block methodology to be considered for e-flows assessment because we thought it's a bottom-up approach. It's much detailed and can be tailored to suit local conditions. In case of River Ganga, the cultural and spiritual aspects are so important that we thought we cannot ignore that while doing any assessment of environmental flows. So this methodology gives us the opportunity to integrate or accommodate those aspirations in terms of flows. It's one of the most frequently used holistic methodology. It's rigorous and well documented. So that's why we use building block methodology to come out with assessment of environmental flows. This mammoth exercise was held by various partners. The major one is the facilitation, which was by Professor J. O'Keefe from UNESCO IHE. Hydrology component was looked after by International Water Management Institute. Fluvial geomorphology by Professor Rajiv Sinha from IIT Kanpur. Water quality component was looked after by Professor Vinod Tare. Hydraulics by IIT Delhi and Dr. Sandhya Rao. Biodiversity was Professor Prakash Nautiyal and Dr. Sandeep Behra. Sandeep Behra is our resident expert of WWF of Indo-Gangetic dolphins. Cultural and spiritual aspects was looked after by Dr. Ravi Chopra from People's Science Institute, Dehradun, which is an NGO actually looking into cultural and spiritual aspects of river from last 30-35 years. And livelihoods aspects was looked after by Dr. Murli Prasad from IIT Kanpur.